This is our 4-at-once program. It does a similar thing to the previous program, except this time it moves 4 objects in randomly different directions. So let's take a look at it. Basically 4 objects, and instead of moving left to right, they move all around, detecting edge collisions, and so on. So I call this 4-at-onceFancy because it adds different movement to the 4-at-once program. Let's take a look at how it works. Nothing special up here except max circles. We use that for the same purpose as before. There's an empty list. This is a little different. V is a random number between 1 and 3. I'm going to use that to randomly set colors. So if V is 1, color is red. If V is 2, color is green. Otherwise, color is blue. And then I'm going to make a circle, all of the same diameter. And I'm setting them at the colors that were set in this code, so they'll all be red, green, or blue. And then I'm giving them random X locations and random Y locations within the window. So I've made a circle with random location, fixed diameter, and a random color, red, green, or blue. I take that circle and I add it using circles.append. I add it to the circles list, I should say, and then I add it to the screen. So again, a random number between 1 and 3 gives me a random color. Produce a circle at a random location with a random color. Take that circle and add it to the circles list with the append statement, and then take from the circles list that particular circle and put it on screen. So now I've got a bunch of things on screen. Now I need to keep track of the fact that sometimes the x velocity of something might be 2, meaning go over to the right, go over to the right, go over to the right, each by 2. But then if that particular object hits the right edge, then I need it to bounce. So I need to say the x velocity is now -2 and -2 and -2 and so on. So I'm doing that for x velocities and y velocities with a couple of empty lists. My circles are stored up here. But the velocities for the circles, the x velocity and the y velocities, are stored in these empty lists. Now this says, of course, I is 0 through 4. If we randomly get a true, then x velocity is 2. Otherwise, the x velocity is -2. If we randomly get a true, the y velocity is 2, or otherwise the y velocity is -2. Then store the x velocity in x vels. Store the y velocity in y vels. Now the takeaway from all of this, because there's a lot of moving parts, but the takeaway is this contains the circles, and that puts them in and puts them on screen. And these two things contain the x velocities and the y velocities. This much figures out what those are randomly, and this much puts them in. The net result is we might have circle sub 0 in there, has an x velocity of 2 and a y velocity of -2. Then circle sub 1, which is in here, would have its x velocity perhaps of -2 stored in x vels 1, and a y velocity possibly -2 also stored in y vels 1. So we've got circles stored here, x and y velocities stored here. Now let's take a look at how we use that. We take a particular circle sub I, and we move it, but we don't move it by a fixed amount. We move it by the x amount in x vels and the y amount in y vels. The net result is circle sub 0 can move in one direction, and then circle sub 1 can move in another direction, and so on. So all the circles get different movements. And then finally I need to detect if each circle has hit an edge, and if so I need to change the x velocity or the y velocity. So this says if we are off the left edge or at the left edge, then change its x velocity to the negative of what it was. Else if we're off the right edge, change the x velocity to the negative of what it was. Else if we're off the top, change the y velocity. Else if we're off the bottom, change the y velocity. So again, I'm storing the circles themselves here and the x and y velocities here. That allows me to have different x and y velocities for each circle. They're all linked together by the fact that I refer to circles sub I and x vels sub I and y vels sub I. It's the position I in the various data structures, circles, XVLs, and YVLs, that gives me what I need. So let's take a quick look. Again, multiple objects, all moving in different directions, just like that. And that's it.